Hello, everyone. So I just want to finish up on some of the important points on chapter 17. The last chapter is going to be 18, and then the final exam will only cover from after what we did on the midterm up to chapter 18. It will not include anything prior, that we had on the midterm. Okay, it's not all inclusive of the whole semester. So and then we'll stop at chapter 18. Okay. So anyway, I want to just talk about the money multiplier here. And the money multiplier, and basically what you do is you define money as a currency plus any checkable deposits, and that's the M1 account. Okay, that's the M1 account. And it links the money supply to the monetary base. And M here is the multiplier, how money gets multiplied. So here's the monetary base. And this is the actual money supply. A simple concept. So if we assume that the desired holding of currencies is C, right, and excess reserves here are ER, and they grow proportionally with checkable deposits D, you come up with two terms, a small c, which is the currency ratio, and the excess reserves ratio, and this should be fixed. So let me just go like that, equal excess reserves ratio. So the total amount of reserves R is going to just equal the sum of the required reserves, right, and the excess reserves, right? This is required by the Fed of all the banks, and this is any excess. So the total amount of required reserves, how do you define required reserves, right? It equals the required reserve ratio times the amount of the checkable deposits. So this goes in here, right? And substituting for R in the first equation, we get R equal R times D plus the excess reserves. And R is always set less to 1, okay? That's the reserve ratio. And that's always set less to 1 by the Fed. So then the monetary base M will equal the currency, as we saw, plus reserves equals C plus R times D plus ER. So this will tell you the amount of monetary base needed to support any existing amounts of checkable deposits, currency, and excess reserves. So this is the pretty much defining equation for the monetary base here. So here's all the equations, and they go through some simple math here. And they solve for C in this case, and they solve for excess reserves in this case, and they substitute those in the previous big equation here, and they do some logistics here, and it comes down that the money multiplier then becomes this equation here, 1 plus C over R plus E plus C, which ultimately makes it less than 1. All right, so here's a simple, some simple examples of the calculation here. All right, so basically just a little quick history here. So when the global financial crisis began in the fall of 2007, the Fed initiated basically lending programs, and they were called TARP programs. And they basically, the goal was to bolster the economy. And basically these purchases of securities by the Fed to put money into the economy led to a large increase in the Fed's balance sheet. And basically, the monetary base was up to 350%. So they had a lot of extra cash floating around out there. So this, there was a huge expansion of the monetary base, and of course, this was called the famous name of quantitative easing. Okay, by introducing cash into the money into the economy, so banks could lend. And of course, this increased the excess reserves because banks had more money, so they had to increase their reserves. So here's M1, and you can see the M1, and you can see the overall monetary base here, and it jumped up right around this period here, which then eased off after 2016. And here's the excess reserves ratio, and here's the currency ratio. And you can see the excess reserves jumped up with quantitative easing here. All right, so that's it. And as I said, I'll put some stuff together on. I'm gonna put some stuff together on chapter 18.